Hello, parents. Welcome to Ask Susannah, January 5th, 2018. Happy New Year. Let's get started. The first question is from, or the only question today, is from Nikki Smarodin, who writes, I have an 11-week-old, and she goes to bed somewhere between 7 and 8 p.m. and usually gives us a 4 or 5 hour stretch at first. She usually feeds at 12 to 1 or 3 or 4 and then up at 6. My issue is that I have a lot of trouble falling asleep that early, even though I'm exhausted. I usually only get to bed around 10, and then she's up in a couple of hours. She also wakes up so early this way, 6 or sometimes even earlier. I'm wondering, should I try and push her bedtime later? I don't really know how to do this and don't want her being overtired, and then risking her just waking up at her normal times anyways. I know eventually 7 or 8 is ideal for older babies, but I am desperate for a bit more sleep. Her daytime sleeping patterns are a nap about 1 or 1.5 hours after waking, and then every 2 hours after that, with her longest being ideally around lunchtime. If schedule is weird and I need her to take a little power nap so that she can make it to bedtime without getting overtired, I do that too. 10 to 15 minutes. Naps, for us, as it sounds like they are for many people, are more challenging. She does short naps, 20 to 30 minutes, unless I'm wearing her or she's lying on me. She's also very sensitive to noise unless she's on me, and we have a house going up next door. Otherwise, I have in the past gotten her to take a long nap in her bed. We use a dock-a-tot in her crib. So we try and do a walk in her carrier for her long nap to guarantee a good sleep, but sometimes when I'm too fatigued, that's hard. I'm cognizant of not getting her too used to sleeping on me as she gets older. Should I start worrying about this at 11 weeks? But also, I don't want her just catnapping and getting overtired, so I feel kind of stuck. Naps have taken over my life and my brain. I totally hear you on that last point. I remember when I first started really paying attention to my baby's sleep, which was around the same age as yours, that naps became all I could think about. But luckily, once your baby gets a little older and once you've settled into a solid routine, you don't have to think about it as much. It just becomes routine. So that's good. Now, I'm going to hope to try to answer everything you've asked here. So in the Facebook comments, I mentioned that you can try dimming your house and abstaining from any screen time after 8 p.m. That will help your brain produce melatonin, which will help you go to sleep earlier. So that's one approach you can take to manage your own exhaustion. Another approach is napping when your baby naps, which is like the oldest advice in the book, and it's actually really solid advice. Not just because you're tired and it will help you with your tiredness, but also because it has the possibility of helping your baby's sleep get better too. And this is through the power of co-regulation, which is a phenomenon where two people, when they're very close to one another, adopt and feed off of each other's emotional and physiological states. So you as the mom, you are a very powerful emotional center for your baby. So if you're sleeping when your baby should be sleeping, it can help your baby sleep too, with the bonus that you get to sleep as well. So those are two things that you can do personally. What was I going to say? Right. So outside of napping yourself, there are some things that you can do to encourage your baby's sleep. You can try using Dr. Karp's 5 S's to encourage sleep in a newborn, which at 11 weeks old, your baby is still new. Although she is getting towards the end of newborn state. But the 5 S's consist of swaddling, putting your baby in the side stomach position, sort of on your arm facing down and out, shushing, swaying, which is like a gentle jiggling kind of motion, and a soother, suckling. So those can help increase sleeps too if you've got your baby swaddled. you want to nail the timing of your baby's sleep. And it sounds like you kind of already have a good handle on this because you're talking about her wake windows. And yes, so newborns in particular, you really have to watch their wake windows to get them down at the right time. Because if you go past if you go if your baby's awake for too long, she can get overtired, get a boost of cortisol, which will make falling asleep really, really difficult. But if you first catch the little waves of falling asleep, then you can help scoop her down that way. Oh, terrible articulation. I think you can follow me. I'm going to post a link on the blurb for the 6 states of newborn consciousness, which is a tool that you can use to help identify the right time to put your baby to bed. This is a good time to begin developing a schedule in your day or a routine so that you have a good rhythm, that maybe you go out in the morning, you come home for naps, you eat around the same time every day. You want your days to not to be random and chaotic, because if they are random and chaotic, then your baby won't be able to identify when sleep time is. But if they're rhythmic and predictable, then your baby will come to predict sleep time, and you'll start getting a lot more traction with lengthening naps. Watch, if you're exclusively breastfeeding, watch your diet. In particular, things like caffeine can be problematic for obvious reasons. Another thing that you can do is to anticipate your baby's wake-ups and go into her room or beside her bed, wherever she's sleeping, and be there for when she starts to wake up to encourage her back to sleep. You'll do this with a shush pat is a fabulous method, where you pat her bottom and just gently. It's a very similar actually sensation to the 5 S's with the jiggling, because you're patting the bottom so she jiggles, and the shushing, shh, that's a white noise. Now, you mentioned that your baby is sensitive to noise. I highly recommend that you invest in a good quality white noise machine, because that can help take some of the work off of you. If your baby's only sleeping when she's on you during noisy times, you might be able to get her to sleep when she's not on you if she's got a white noise machine to cancel out all the construction next door. Another thing, final thing here that can help is to put her down awake but sleepy. If you put her down fully asleep, when she comes out of a sleep cycle, which in a newborn is about 30 to 45 minutes, she will be disoriented, because when she fell asleep, she was pressed up against mommy and all warm and snuggly, and now she's all by herself. This is not what I was expecting, and wah. So if you encourage your baby, if you get her nice and sleepy in your arms, maybe you're nursing her, just make sure to rouse her just a little bit before putting her down. Some people have no success with this whatsoever. Their babies get very agitated by this, but for many babies this works. So it's worth a try, because if you can get your baby used to falling asleep on her own, then you are miles ahead in terms of having an independent sleeper who can sleep for a long time. My final note is on the DockATot that you're using, and I'm really glad that you're getting some good long sleeps out of her in her crib. However, I have to note that in Canada, DockATots are actually not regulated. Not regulated. They're highly regulated. They're not allowed to be sold as in-bed sleep aids, and that's because of their association with an increase in a risk of SIDS. Now, this is not the case for regulation in other well-regulated countries. Canada is some of the highest, strictest consumer regulations on baby products. So, for example, you're not allowed to use a car seat that you bought in the US in Canada. It's not up to code, even if it's the same make and model. Canada's really hardcore. So this isn't me saying don't use your DockATot. It's just me saying do some research into it, make sure that it's the right choice for you, and understand that there is a potential risk of an increase of SIDS. Sorry to end on kind of a downer note. But I hope that I've given you some good pieces that you can use to help improve your baby's sleep. And have a great weekend. Bye.